introduction for everybody who's here. So today we are very happy to be joined by Jussi Jänes from Urbaria, Helsinki Institute for Urban Sciences and Regional Studies. Am I correct?
Yeah, Urban and Regional Studies, yes.
Yes.
It's a very long, complicated name.
Yes, and they have conducted, to my knowledge, the most comprehensive sustainability kind of indicators research in Finland, and also, to my knowledge, in all the Baltic and Nordic countries. So this is very comprehensive. They have gathered around 50 different researchers and stakeholders and brought them to the table to discuss what is sustainability in regional context for them. And as Jussi and also Mikko, Jussi's colleague, told me, that was a big challenge, because sometimes you're joined by economists and then maybe by architects and some agronomers, and they speak different languages. So their ability to actually create this sustainability index is an extremely empowering and inspiring example of anything, I think, what we might also try to achieve with the laboratory efforts by joining a transdisciplinary cohort of students and researchers together to move forward sustainable futures. And Laura Uimonen, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, is a
very good.
Yes, and she's a researcher and a postdoctoral researcher, and who's has also a hybrid experiences, able to join to investigate art, the role of art in urban planning, and her role in Urbaria project is her research on Deadwood in urban environments as an indicator for sustainability of urban environments. And she will tell more about her research. So our presentation is kind of structured that first Jussi will introduce the general sustainability indicators project, and then Laura will speak more about her specific indicator. So I hope I paid justice for your expertise. And yes, Jussi and Laura, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Gytis. That was a very nice introduction. And yes, hello everyone. Like Gytis said, my name is Jussi Jänes, and I work as a coordinator at the Helsinki Institute of Urban and Regional Studies, Urbaria, which is part of Helsinki University. And unfortunately, my colleague Mikko couldn't be here today, who Gytis also mentioned he had another appointment, but hopefully I'll be able to do justice by describing the project Gytis was talking about. So just give me a second, I'll see if I'm able to share my slides. Just a second. Maybe if I'll share my screen. Can you see this?
Yes, it's working.
Great. Just a sec. And you can still see it?
Yep.
Perfect. All right. So, wait a minute. Start. Yeah. So, since May 2023, I've been coordinating a research initiative focused on identifying sustainability indicators that can be monitored and applied on a neighborhood and city block level. And the neighborhood level sustainability indicator project was born from the growing need to bring the knowledge produced by sustainability science and urban research closer to practical urban planning. And sustainability indicators provide crucial information to support planning and decision making, and they enable the monitoring and evaluation of the sustainability of urban development over the long term. To our knowledge, research projects focusing specifically on indicators that describe the sustainability of neighborhoods have not been undertaken at all in Finland before, and even globally they seem to be quite rare. And typically, the focus is on much broader areas, such as cities and municipalities, or even the whole country, or maybe even the whole world, or the whole continent. And as a result, the scope of monitoring has often remained, unfortunately, abstract. And yet the most pressing issues related to sustainability challenges facing cities, such as urban growth, ecological sustainability, and social stratification and segregation, ultimately revert to methods of construction and land use planning. And for this reason, the decisions to guide urban development also typically occur at the level of individual plots, blocks, and neighborhoods. And moreover, by focusing on the neighborhood level, the phenomena being indicated tend to be more easily observable to anyone visiting or residing in these urban environments. Our project aims to promote the sustainability transformation by compiling existing scientific knowledge and striving to enhance its impact on urban planning and political decision making. Our goal has been to identify as concrete and practical indicators as possible, which decision makers, real estate and construction industry players, urban planners, or city residents themselves can monitor. And we started implementing the Neighborhood Sustainability Indicator project by identifying professors and other leading researchers, such as Laura, from 5 Finnish universities, University of Helsinki, Aalto University, University of Turku, Tampere University, and University of Eastern Finland. And we aim to find researchers representing as many scientific disciplines as possible, with the only common factor being that each one's expertise was somehow related to urban sustainability in one way or another. And there were also several researchers who did not primarily consider themselves as sustainability scientists. And if you look at the scientific disciplines of the researchers involved in the project according to how they are named in their own titles, there are exactly 30 different disciplines represented in our project. You can see them all here. And a total of 52 researchers were involved in the project. And between the summer of 2023 and the spring of 2024, we held 10 roundtable discussions, inviting selected researchers to participate. During the discussions, these researchers brought forward what were, in their opinion, the most important indicators from their respective fields for measuring the sustainability of neighborhoods. We engaged in interdisciplinary discussions on how best to promote a sustainability transition at the neighborhood and local community level. These sessions often had a kind of a snowball effect. In the discussions, researchers frequently suggested new topics and new experts whom we had not previously considered, and partly based on these ideas, we launched subsequent discussions. And in addition to the roundtable discussions, we also organized an event where we invited non-governmental organizations and researchers to share their views on how to make neighborhoods more sustainable. And all 10 roundtable discussions, as well as the public event, were recorded, transcribed, and analyzed. And based on this analysis, a total of 130 indicators were collected from the discussions. And following the so-called 3-pillar model of sustainable development, we initially attempted to sort these 130 collected indicators under the categories of ecological, social, and economic sustainability. However, examination of the indicators showed that these 3 dimensions are often in practice overlapping rather than distinct, and many of the indicators were inseparably linked to ecological, social, and economic realities. Thus, in terms of categorization, we didn't find this division very practical. And out of these 130 collected indicators, 29 were selected for a recently published book, which is now available for everyone to download for free. You can either take a screenshot of the QR code here or write down the address. I can also put it in the chat later on. And the Finnish version was already published back in April 2024, and the English version came out very recently, officially in October. The book is called Towards More Sustainable Residential Areas, Indicators of Neighborhood and Block Sustainability. And the 29 indicators included in the book were ultimately chosen based on which ones the researchers themselves deemed particularly important in terms of their own research backgrounds, which ones generated the most discussion in our roundtable events, and which ones had the strongest and most convincing argumentation behind them. In this way, our aim to showcase the researchers' own voices was realized most effectively and organically. We're quite proud of the final result, and we feel that it truly reflects the diverse top-level expertise available in Finnish universities. A total of 34 professors and other top researchers wrote about the 29 selected indicators in our book, and most of these researchers participated in our roundtable discussions, but there were also some who had not previously been involved in the project, but brought specific expertise to the indicators or topics that emerged in the discussions. And here you can see all the researchers who contributed to our book. And after much deliberation, we decided to categorize the 29 indicators presented in the book under the following 4 chapters. Some articles would have fit under more than one chapter, but we believe that chapters capture quite effectively the broader themes that are emphasized when studying neighborhood-level sustainability. The chapters are communities and inclusion, well-being and social disadvantage, the state of nature and urban green spaces, and homes and streets. And under the chapter on communities and inclusion, we selected social sustainability indicators that measure inclusion and interaction between neighborhood residents in terms of experiential aspects of their lived experience. And the chapter on well-being and social disadvantage also includes social indicators. Here we showcase indicators that bring to light structural inequalities through various statistics. And in the chapter on the state of nature and urban and green spaces, probably the most important in terms of your project, the indicators deal with the relationship between the built urban space and non-human environment, ecological questions related to climate change, biodiversity, and environmental health. And in the chapter on homes and streets, we delve into sustainability from an infrastructure and sustainable construction perspective, also very important in terms of your project. We examine how urban roads, buildings, and homes can be made more sustainable. And now that you've had a chance to glance through all the indicators in our book, in addition to hopefully being excited to learn more about them, many of you are probably also wondering why this or that topic wasn't mentioned at all. And we realized early on in our project that it would be impossible to attempt to present an all-encompassing collection of neighborhood-level sustainability indicators. But that wasn't our intent either. The aim of presenting the indicators in the book is not to be the final word or even a comprehensive collection of neighborhood sustainability indicators. Rather, we hope it will serve as a strong academic opening for recognizing, promoting, and further developing neighborhood-level sustainability. We're convinced that the implementation and continuous monitoring of the indicators featured in the book would greatly advance ecological values, social well-being, and vitality in individual neighborhoods. And our book launch event was a great success. Almost 100 people participated on site and about 30 more attended online. The book has already been downloaded over 1,500 times, and according to the Helsinki University Helda Open Repository, where it's published, it has been one of their most downloaded books, only trumping numbers by official course literature. And this makes us very happy because it shows that there's great interest in these topics. And now, of course, the big question is how to get cities and municipalities to adopt these indicators as a part of their decision-making process. Besides generally making cities and municipalities aware of the book, one avenue is, of course, seminars and sparring events, where we can bring researchers involved in the project to discuss and answer sustainability-related questions directly. Another format which we were already piloting with several municipalities in Finland is identifying a specific indicator from the book that seems particularly relevant to the municipality, and then selecting a master student from the University of Helsinki to test the indicator in action in the area and write their master's thesis around it. We're also trying out other methods. For example, the University of Helsinki has a deal with a municipality called Vihti here in Finland, where a part of the deal included a geography master's students practicing fieldwork, which is based on a selection of our indicators in Vihti and writing their final course assignments on the basis of this research. And then the final results were shared with the municipality to help with the future city planning. And now, of course, that the book is available in English as well, we're also looking into forms of international collaboration. So feel free to get in touch with our institute. If anything pops into your mind, you can see my and my colleague Mikko's email addresses there. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And immense congratulations with the work that you managed to achieve. This is spectacular amount of work, and also I have questions, but maybe we can designate them to the later part. And definitely we will do our best at keeping our cohort of students and researchers reminded about your work and for the invitation to collaborate and do something more. So yes, thank you so much. And now I guess
thank you, goodness.
Yes, it's Laura. Are you ready?
Yes, let's try to also share the presentation.
Cool. It's working.
It's working. Do you see it okay?
Yes.
All right. So my presentation is based on the seminar presentation I had last summer, almost a year ago at Helsinki, with some new addings. And as I told in the beginning, that I feel kind of hybrid myself, that my background is in architecture, but I did my PhD already 15 years ago in University of Art and Design. But today I'm working in as a university teacher, teaching urban planning and landscape planning, but 50% of my workload, I work in two national academia research projects, and the other one is called BIVE, and other one is called MUST. That's why there is the logo of our BIVE project behind. And I think I'm here because love for the trees. And I just came from the Green Days. There's a really nice event in Finland every February in Jyväskylä called Green Days, where there's a seminar and also an exhibition. And a year ago, there was Amy Chester talking about trees, which has been one of my inspirations for this work. And my background also, I did after my PhD and working in the cultural sector and public art, I realized that it's really vital to do something for our environment. And I applied to really low-level field biology studies to become a nature surveyor. So I spent 2 summers outdoors. And actually, a lot of the information and science I do today owe that course. And I must tell that those studies has been the hardest in my life. PhD was easy part because you cannot learn the nature stuff from books. You have to go put your boots on and go to the woods and shores and everywhere. And these are the research projects I'm working in. The later one is MUST. We are now working with the multi-species transitions with several universities. There's also from Wales, Cardiff, and from Indonesia, another university. And here may be some keywords that we are all very used to, but we are also referring to planetary health and biodiversity, multi-species approach, and so on. And biophilic design has been also quite important for my perspectives. And this BIVE refers to the biodiversity interventions for well-being, and it's led by the Nature Research Institute in Finland. It's also, both of them are multidisciplinary. And in our university, we have only one work package delivering these approaches to the urban planning. But now I ask you to imagine a tree, any tree you know in urban neighborhood. And I know that I think most of you are architects. And I must remind you that for me, the nature studies made a big difference because I started to think that many of the trees live longer than houses, especially here in North. Our cities are rather young, and our trees are much older than most of the buildings. I think that in Finnish buildings are usually only 50 years old. If a house is older than 100 years or 200 years, we think it's really a museum kind of house. We are that young country. But think of the different kind of trees in your neighborhood, what they mean to you. And then think what they look like when they are in the end of their life circle. So imagine Deadwood in urban neighborhood. It's not so rare thing anymore, and there are different forms. We have different kind of standing logs, stamps, art pieces. We made things of the tree trunks and leave them in the parks today. And this idea of this, my indicator, is applied from the conservation and forestry sciences. And I'm very thankful to Jussi and Urbaria that they asked us actually with these indicators that we can also invent some new indicators. And in conservation sciences, Deadwood has been indicator for a long time, and actually it's a European Union indicator for biodiversity, but not really in the cities. So this neighborhood level was something that I started to think that how we could really measure that. And actually, it's not really a unique indicator, not even in urban areas, because green factor tool has some references that we can count also Deadwood as part of the green factor with the green factor tools in urban areas. But as an element for urban planning, I think that kind of indicator. It's a rather new thing. This is a poster from museum at Helsinki, and the content is real. We really have a law of nature and biodiversity, and it tells that the responsibility belongs to everybody. I must admit that this is not maybe implemented very well always, but I think it's really nice to find from our binding law that we have this kind of, in constitution law, we have this chapter 20. And this is something that I want to show you, that the oldest monumental trees, they often exist, especially inside the cities. Finland is famous of the paper mill companies and forestry industry. So even though we are having the most largest amount of forest in Europe, so have got the information, but most of the forests are not natural. They are these, we call them like tree fields, cultivated trees for the industry. And the most oldest trees are often found from the cities. And here are two examples. One of the oldest trees exists in national urban park in Heinola, rather small town, and it's next to canal. And another example is pine trees, which look rather thin, but they are actually older than the building by Reiman Raili Pietilä in Otaniemi in Aalto University area. And the trees are older than the building, which is has been a student house of Helsinki University of Technology, and today it's a conference center of Aalto University. And the person by the tree is actually a geographer, my friend Iris, and I can tell that she's not a tiny person. So I ask you, why not to let the urban trees born and die at the sites in the cities? And this is maybe a rather radical idea, but if we expand the idea to the city block or city district, it might be possible, because today, at least in Finland, in cities, it's a very normal procedure that if the tree is becoming dangerous or infected with yes, they use this word, infected by the polypures, you see the signs of the mushrooms, it will be taken away and removed or burned or used as an energy. And actually, we know very well that the biodiversity relies so much on trees, and the neighborhood, one loop might take even 1,000 years if you just let it happen. And really many species are interdependent with trees. And also we as humans, we have personal relations with trees. And also with, if we think maybe only pollinators, many trees are very important to the food chain, for example. And it's not only about the space in urban space, like streets and courtyards, but it's also about the soil. And we know very well that the mycelia network, which is called like a brain of the biodiversity, so it delivers nutrition, water for the whole tree society and also other shrubs and plants. So it's a kind of, the way of saying like a World Wide Web is the mycelia under the ground. And what we have done and studied here in Finland, and I suppose you have your own experts in our university, we have also applied sciences, and Petri Ketotokoi is a researcher and teacher of forestry, and he has written with the Juha Siitonen, Polypure expert, a really interesting book rather lately about companion species of the living trees, the most common trees in Finland. And this is something that I think that we should start to use in our, especially in landscape planning, when we are planning for biodiversity and multi-species environment. And this is something that we call in our research group biodiversity turn. That first time maybe in the world we are starting to plan the cities not only for people. Since antique and Mediterranean famous cities, we have been planning for people mainly. But now we think that we should start to plan cities, neighborhoods, everything also to our companion species. So, how the organic cycle could happen inside the rather small areas of the cities. And here are some ideas and what tools we have already now in use. And European Union asked all the cities to do these biodiversity programs. They start to be ready and in use, at least in Finland, in larger cities, but the small cities are far behind. And here in my hometown, Tampere, we have these both climate and biodiversity watch actions, which are online. Everybody can follow them. And there are also a lot of actions where people can participate. Actually, I don't know if we have any art-based actions here, but I hope that's maybe in the future. Then there's this Green Factor tool, and there's some references to the Deadwood, but maybe still in a rather small amount, and they are called like bonus elements. They are not binding. There's this green care movement. We have urban tree policies and Deadwood guidances, which are emerging right now. Urban trees are taken care of. Here at Tampere, we have a online mapping tool that you can find every public space tree. You can, in a GIS portal, you can point the tree and read what species the tree is and of the size and age, for example. And of course, different kind of education and activism and monitoring and research. And we call and follow these site-sensitive and biophilic principles in some amount. But as an urban planner, I think that we should go further with these, that what we really need to bring these tree cycles, and I think that they are considered already in a public space, but not that much in private yards. But of course, we need space, water, soil, permeable surfaces, and of course, new kind of maintenance. And this picture is from city of Hämeenlinna, and that's an oak tree. And here in Finland, oaks, they grow from 25 to 30 meters wide. So they are almost like a small block. So in this little park, they have left rather nicely space for this tree to grow in future decades, and maybe a future 100 years and more. And what is needed, maybe inside the professional field and also with our citizens, we need a lot of unlearning how we treat trees and respect them. And of course, learning. There's an idea from Stockholm to bring the compost to the urban spaces. We don't yet see them, but we might have. And we should take much more care of the trees when there's construction sites, not only the tree trunks, but also the roots and these mycelia. And we should learn new kind of aesthetics, new use and new uses. Then I will show you a couple of cases that which could be like not still ready-made, but some proposals what could have been done, and what there are some ideas and ongoing processes. And these come from Tampere. You'll see the Tampere city center on the map here. And hey, by the way, if anything just occurs to your mind, you could maybe write to the chat your questions already while I'm talking. So let's go to the park. It's called, it's Duck Park, Sorsapuisto in Finnish. There's a small pond in the middle, and you see from the GIS map that there's a different kind of and ages trees. And this is one of the city-owned parks that they try to plan for the biodiversity and kind of smart city principles and thinking of the climate change. There's a picture. And actually, it's the human intervention here is rather long, from maybe 150 years ago. There used to be natural water element, and now it's much more built. And it's kind of arboretum area, and next to cultural and uses and schools, middle of the blocks. And what they have started here is that they replant the same genetical background from the old trees. Like here is the willow, silver willow, and there's actually the little picture is from our portal that you can check the information of the trees. And I think this kind of letting the information about trees spread to anyone in public portals could help us to learn the value of the trees and age and size and so on, that we could easily follow what's happening with the trees. There's a picture from the winter, and these little planted trees, there are different kind of maples. So we are now testing new species from more southern, maybe from Lithuanian area too, and I think from Estonia, which areas are a little bit warmer than our level here up north. So we are preparing and testing that which trees could survive here better in the future. And actually, this is art-based project called Art Operation Pirkanmaa, regional one. And some of the tree trunks were carved with artists. And it was supposed to be a part-time thing, but I organized a seminar called A Lovely Deadwood, and we asked the artist group to present this for us. And I actually didn't know when we went there that at the same day they were trying to remove this from the bark, and people were so inspired after the seminar. It was like the evening event of the seminar day. So, and the city gardener was among us. So he called a couple of people, and now it's there permanently, and it can decay there at the park. And it's a part of the tree that was there originally and fell in storm. But then we go to the another example, and so I represent you my home quarter next to Pyynikki Square, and the picture is from Pyynikki Ridge, from the tower, and you see the yellow building. Actually, I'm sitting here at home right now, and you see that there are block of flats, but also wooden houses and some pine trees and behind us. And the question is that how to bring tree cycle to private yards. And this is something that we have tested a bit in our BIVE process with these interventions. These pictures are from there. But as you can see, our implementations are maybe not the most pleasing ones. And I think with our landscaping and art, we could do much more, plant flowers, maybe dig this dead wood into the soil and so on. So there are lots of things we could do. And in BIVE, we have also used these logs that they have implemented some mushrooms, and they are this company called GABA Biotech that sells these logs. But then back to my home quarter. So you see from the air, and our block is the size is 50 to 90 meters, and there are around 80 households. And these block of flats, they are 6-story heights, and these small wooden houses are 2-story, and there are also a couple of families in each. Actually, there are 4 family houses. And middle of here, there are these yards with some trees. And there's quite a difference. Here are some pictures from actually the window. I'm sitting here next to it. And you can see that we can see the trees from our window, but there's none in this block of flats. So there's like the equality of the connection to the trees is very different in different kind of plots in our quarter. And I think it's a little bit daring idea to get rid of the fences. So maybe these 6 plots, we could join each other and think of the future, how we share the green spaces. But we now have 2 impermeable deckyards in the block, which is rather demanding thing. And here are some pictures from our quarter, from the private yards or shared with the 4 families. You can see that they are really green. And actually at the Green Days, I returned yesterday. We listened, you probably everybody know now that these are 300 plus 30 plus 3 principle by Cecil Koningdijk. He was the keynote speaker there. And he actually told really nice story about why there's this everybody should see 3 trees from their window. And I'm happy that I can see 3 trees from my window, even though they are in a neighborhood. But the idea came to him during the COVID in Barcelona, where they lived, because they couldn't go outdoors at all, and they thought over that 3 is a nice number and maybe the minimum. And from my point of view, 3 trees is also a really nice number because birds very seldomly do nests in single trees. That I learned early in my studies. So that might be one reason for this, why there should be under every window at least 3 different trees. But there are a lot of challenges. We have used a lot of these urban farming, and we have also placed Deadwood in these boxes. But if there's no maintenance at all, so the end result might be rather disappointing and do even harm to the sustainable initiatives. And trying to do something with the soil and plant trees is rather challenging when we have so much things like all the infrastructure under the soil. But if they can do it in Paris, why we couldn't do that? You probably heard from this very famous LABT. They are planting 200,000 trees this year and last year. And also there was a picture about the increasing rains and storms. But I've been trying to gather some ideas. Just actually, this is the first picture is from Pasila, which is mainly built on decks, like concrete decks. And I found out that many of the trees are now in the last phase that the trees will survive. And I noticed that they have left the tree trunks. The picture is really, really small, but they haven't taken them off. And actually, this was a kind of new idea for me that maybe the decks are not so bad thing in the end. Maybe they could be also these Deadwood gardens. But there are also these challenges of these Deadwood fences that if they look like this, like one nearby us, there's allotment plots and urban farming. So maybe people are not everybody ready for that kind of aesthetics yet. But now at the winter time, I think one thing that we should really concentrate on is winter time. We still have quite a lot of snow, even though the climate change and the global warming it's visible here in Finland. This winter has been the warmest ever. And like today, there's very little snow, hardly at all. And how we design the cities with the Deadwood and increasing green for these very gray, rainy winters. And how do we really study the Deadwood for all? And in this our research project, the multi-species justice is really important term. And actually, we just today had a meeting within our research group, and I've noticed that in our research, the habitats and ecosystems and there's a lot of information about human and certain species, but very little information how different species interact in urban environments. And I just heard a sentence about that when you are designing for insects or pollinators, it's a different thing when you're designing for birds. And I wanted to ask that, hey, the insects is the food for the birds. So we cannot think of them only other group. And then a couple of slides, greetings from Sweden. I was happy to go to the Uppsala Landscape Architecture Department in Ultuna, nearby Stockholm, and we were visited to visit the most oldest pine trees. They are over 300 years old, and this Markus Hedblom was our host, and we visited these trees with the local landscape architecture and engineering students. And it was a good reminder for us that there was a hospital area around, which is also built up later on. And in Sweden, they are very into this health issues and this salutogenic design. So really think of the health benefits of trees, both deadwood and living trees, as well we do in BIVE too. And in Ultuna campus, that's both they use quite a lot of deadwood for pollinators and also for human beings as benches and decoration. But it's also really good questions that we discussed a little bit before we started, that is it really for the biodiversity or some kind of greenwash? So a lot of information is needed. We visited also in Stockholm, Norra Djurgårdsstaden, and there are like the second phase, I think, of using deadwood. They started it in Hammarby Sjöstad already 20 years ago, but this more recent area, like you see in the rain gardens, and these are housing areas in the middle of the block of flats. So they use deadwood quite a lot actually. And here are some examples from Ultuna campus, how they use deadwood. And one what I think this kind of phenomenon happens in Finland. I haven't yet studied that what kind of guidelines cities have, but I've noticed that we have these dog parks, fenced areas that the dogs can, pets can run freely, and this seems to be already kind of custom that the logs of our fallen trees are brought to these areas. There's pictures from Tampere and Helsinki. But this is also kind of an easy way to do it, that they just leave it there. But maybe we could do something more. And here's some examples from Lappeenranta. They have a very nice meadow project. They own quite a lot of amount of land in Lappeenranta city in eastern Finland, and they have also left lawns to grow as meadows, and they brought some composting and tools for the people to take care of these meadows and use also the deadwood in urban farming. And of course, the health impacts for the soil and people and animals can be delivered also with the wood chips. But as you can see, this community garden from Helsinki, so you can see they also use these plastic surfaces for play. And actually, I haven't checked this area that what is actually the material, but you can see that still they combine that maybe harmful surfaces with these very healthy ones. So there's a lot to learn, but we are getting there, and it's getting more use that you can use as in playgrounds also organic materials. And then to the end, I will show these couple of pictures from our MUST intervention. So this multi-species project we have started in 3 campuses in Turku, Hervanta campus at Tampere, and the third one is in Lappeenranta University, kind of rewilding. And we have planted both perennial plants and shrubs. And we chose the sites so that we could safeguard in a way the existing trees. So we chose a couple of trees with the maintenance group of the university and made like a safety zone around the trees. And there was at the same time construction site in our university campus, and we got some deadwood from there and brought that to the site. But there are some students of mine carrying these logs, and we are building some bee hotels together. And this little picture here is these maple trees' roots are on a very surface, and they've been cutting the lawn much too heavily and harming these trees. So this was the area, and 3 rather similar areas are already implemented. And we take soil samples before and after. We count all the plants, the changes, and follow also some pollinators development in these areas. And to the end, this is my questions. How can we monitor? So there are a lot of different things. And I forgot in the beginning, but we have also these Deadwood experts like Aku Korhonen in our BIVE research group. So all my knowledge I've learned from Deadwood comes from the collaboration with Aku and a couple of other Deadwood ecologists. So it's not my own knowledge in that sense, but here are some how we monitor and measure. And here the indicator itself, some guiding principles, I think that should be used if we want to use this indicator. So maybe this is still in dreaming phase, but it would be lovely to have every neighborhood with organic material handling area, maybe leaf compost and tools and at least in a city district to neglect, avoid very unsustainable transportation, and use the organic material at the area, document what's happening, give it to the online portals for people. And it would be nice to participate people, and they could plan their own tree plan for the future and increase the amount of permeable surfaces and also monitor what happens. Oh, no, I jumped and here. So I ask you to think of this, that what if you, because in Finland it's very normal that all the leaves are taken away from your city district even. So think of these new things that you could do. Increase the canopy of the trees, increase the amount of rainwaters collected, and so on. And here are some drawings of mine that we try to inspire people that what you can do. And certainly artists could do much more. And there's some references. So thank you from my side.
Wow, thank you so much, Laura. It's very nice, inspiring, and also very harmonious, I think, because the perspective that you are bringing is in opposition to this modernist aim to eradicate the reality of death from all possible encounters, urban planning as well. But what you're bringing on is something very kind of with high sensibility. And yeah, I have many comments, and for me, just very quickly, I was very inspired by your practice of going to botanical, to like nature studies, or yeah, somehow you described it. I think this is a very nice example of engaging with becoming hybrid, so like with your hands on. And also just a very tiny thing which I noticed in your presentation, but really I loved that moment so much, was that when you showed this picture with these branches really like mashed together, and your comment was that the general population might not be ready for this kind of aesthetics yet. So yeah, very interesting.
I hope
Yes.
for kind of new aesthetics, and maybe I could also add to all that. I ask you to remind you that we are working here in a national scale, and Finnish cities, most of them are really not so dense. So we have a lot of space, and we have every fifth person in Finland are living in suburban areas. And I think that our suburbs are rather similar as maybe yours, like concrete element houses from 60s, 70s. And I think every Finnish person has in some phase of their life lived in this kind of suburbs, and they were literally built up either to the fields or to the woods. So this would be very possible to do in our cities, and because we are not in New York or in London, we have city centers, but they are rather small. And like I live 1 kilometer from the city center, and you saw my home in the pictures. So already, like from the city center, it comes very green, and there is possibilities to do things like that. And why not in more urban areas? I think it could be also possible, but I think that we are trying to work in our scale, rather loose density, and there was somebody maybe it was this Cecil Koningdijk. He told that you Finns should keep what you have. The green areas should be kept green. So because we still have a lot also inside the cities.
Yeah, and a very interesting example of this greenery integrated into urban environments is Amsterdam. I've been living in Amsterdam for some time, and it was very fascinating to see how the city itself is much more green than the outskirts of the city. So like there, it's very like inverted. In Netherlands, when you leave the city, it's just like fields until the horizon, and everything is like very much manufactured. In the city, there are like these parks with really like segments of wilderness where they just leave it to grow. Obviously, I think it's like planned and they select certain species, but you can really see this like high levels of biodiversity, which are much higher than actually here what we have in Lithuanian parks in the city. And there are like so many different birds and so many different insects and plants living in these parks. So yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, maybe just opening the floor for the questions. I might be the first one, and then I'll give the word to others. But for me, like I have many questions, but maybe one of very like pedagogically useful kind of things, which I hope you could kind of direct us towards to some direction, is the question about unlearning. So you mentioned that so obviously there are many things to learn, and you presented it very clearly. But what is, in your perspective, main things to unlearn? Obviously, the notion of like Deadwood as something unuseful. So this is one of the perspectives, but maybe you have some more comments about the very like thing of unlearning.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe one thing to learn and also unlearn is I just heard it in English, but I couldn't understand maybe the context, but in Finnish it's hallittu hoitamattomuus, and it actually means that kind of controlled or non-maintenance. So or low maintenance. So I think that we should unlearn to clean our gardens, like the for many the gardens are somehow the aesthetic value is that it must be somehow ruled by humans and are very tidy. There cannot be any leaves. Even a dead branch is somehow harmful or ugly. And this is also culturally there's a lot of variation. Like in Japanese ikebana, they always have there must be something dead when you make these ikebana flower things, and that kind of learning we could somehow respect the whole cycle of the trees, and so that's one part of the unlearning, and somehow I think that there might be also some metaphoric things that in current times that we are somehow afraid of our kind of things that we have been considering ugly or old. So everything must be new and shiny and something like patina is, I think, a nice word that in some context we admire it, but in gardens maybe not. So that may be one thing, and it could be very easy for people that you get the permit to not keep your garden so tidy. And there are some ideas for that how which can help you.
Yeah, I remember, I'm not sure if that's the case currently in Tallinn, but at some point the municipality made this kind of like a legislation. Maybe it was like for a single year, but they stopped kind of cleaning the grass fields and even these like small plots of grass in between of streets, etc. And they started really like flourishing. And this is like my ideal how my backyard would look like. I think it's a lot of insects then, but yeah, it's very beautiful. Yeah, nice. Do you have any questions from the audience? I really encourage somebody to step up. Do we have anybody?
Yes.
Yes, go on, Aina.
I would like to ask if biodiversity ties into oxygen synthesis. If yes, how?
I'm not sure if I got the did I understood it right?
So rotting wood is important because it ensures biodiversity. And I think main problem in today's cities is poor air quality, which could be better if there was more oxygen. So yeah, my question is, does biodiversity help to increase oxygen somehow? And if yes, how?
Yes, yeah. Okay, now I got it. Yes, yeah. Every single green plant helps us with the producing oxygen and using the carbon oxide. So the every single green plant needs us because we breathe out the carbon oxide, and it's like a food for the trees and plants, and they give us oxygen. And how the deadwood is related to that is that when the trees are left to the soil, so the soil gets better. So, and also the leaves, all organic material make the soil to better condition. And what I didn't know before, that in a tree trunk, it's not only that the leaves are producing all opposite. I thought that all the roots are for the leaves, but it's like a two-way highway. So the leaves take things to the roots, and the roots take things to the leaves. So it's like a air cooling and improving machine. You can drink and bigger the tree is, it's like a bigger better machine. So that kind of information I think we should produce for the kids and people that and also thinking of these storm waters. There has been these horrible floods in Europe and people have died and so on. So only a one tree can evaporate a huge amount of water to the air. So it's like a machine taking the water from the ground to the air, and at the that's the reason that the air is cooler under the trees, because of the evaporation of the water. So I think that kind of maybe visuals we could produce for the people, that what actually, like they have written and told that the trees are like providing these ecosystem services for people, but maybe it's a little bit technical perspective, and they are really brilliant. I just learned that in some countries they use comic books in urban planning. That's as a tool, and sometimes people can make the comic book together with an artist, and they can tell in a comic book that what is wrong in their area, what they want, what is wrong, and then they get people inspired to read it and come to the next comic books workshop. And first I thought that it was really odd and funny, but actually I started to think that when you use something that people are used to read and are willing to draw, like the teenagers might like to draw it, and maybe they could do it digitally, like videos or whatever application they use, that kind of take these new tools to discuss trees and maybe like the older bugs and the decaying process of deadwood could be really nice to study for the kids and people, and because and for me it was new information that when the tree is fallen down, it might take sometimes longer time to vanish than it has been growing upwards. For example, these woods like aspen and birch, which are very soft wood, so those might take even 100 years before they are really vanished in the forest or on the soil.
Wow, so interesting, and thank you for your comic book reference. I think this is an invitation to our students to think up of their presentation capabilities. Nice. Yeah, any more questions? Do you have anybody?
Actually, yes, I do have another one. So right now, I think a big problem is that we don't let the roots absorb water because it's surrounded by concrete. And how could we enhance the absorption of the trees? Because it's obviously very bad for the trees. I can see how poor the quality of life is for them when they only have like half a meter of the root to soak the water in. So could you tell me more about like the ways we can make the water absorb into the land without just it being a field? Because I think concrete is very important because you know women couldn't walk with heels on the field, so it's still important, but maybe there's some ways that we could better it.
Yeah, I think there are some technical solutions. And one thing is good to know that many trees in the cities today, if they plant a new tree, even though if they bring a rather large tree, it's already planted in a pot, which is you can think of the like house plants in pots, but for the trees they are just bigger, maybe 1 meter or 2 meters wide. I just saw a couple of them in this conference I was taking a part. There was also exhibition, and in these pots they the roots they get used to live in a very small place, and maybe they are suffering, but are and it affects in a way that they don't grow very quickly. But if you have a very narrow place and a lot of concrete around, so you can use these pots or bring that kind of tree and build these technical solutions that there might be like a water tank under the tree. And then you nurse the tree similar way as you your flowers indoors or your green plants in your home. So that's one thing then. And then you can think of that these kind of trees are dependent on human beings. There must be somebody gardener taking care of them, and some trees might need water maybe once, twice a week when it's very hot time. That's one solution, maybe not very good one. But another interesting thing, what they have done in Paris. Maybe we can think of the city of very lot of high heels. So they took, I find it very fascinating. They took a lot of maps, old maps, and on the map of today, and they found out where there have been trees earlier. They spotted that old places of trees, and then they tried to find out if there are any pipes or any room under the asphalt, and they call this process what they are doing debitumization, like no asphalt process, and they really dig up the asphalt, and they dig the ground and try find soil where they can plant new trees. So they are finding like a new soil, and in some cities they have taken some car park areas if there are nothing under there, and step by step they take maybe 1 or 2 car parks away, like for a single car, and they plant a new tree. So they enlarge the area and the soil for the trees. And at the same time, how that can be possible, they have organized new bus stops, new trams, and in private areas, in block of flats in Tampere, they have now a rule that if the building people of the building just cooperate, they can change that 5 car parks are changed with the one place for these common used shared cars. So if the people are just willing to cooperate and organize or pay for a company of these shared cars, that and in some buildings they use them like in a similar way that you book maybe your laundry place, that you just rent a car and or share it in your building or in your district. So that's one possibility, that in a city you rather often really don't need your own car, but you can think of the group of people that owning a car together or renting together, and I think that's giving new soil also for trees and green areas. And of course, I think those trees you can plant also on the roofs and on the decks. That's getting better all the time. We have been very negative towards that, but I think that there are already very good examples. But it's costly. It's not very cheap. You might need some watering systems and so on. And the maintenance is maybe the questions that if we want to have greener cities, we must somehow also think that we must pay for that. But in the same way, I think this green, like rewilding cities might give a good amount of workplace for people. And I think everybody knows that we are working far too much indoors and with computers. Maybe we could start to think of that we work for a green company once a week or twice a week, or take it as an exercise or volunteering work or something like. Maybe this is also the learning and unlearning that in it might take years or decades, but I sometimes say that if I would be a king or queen, I would order that everybody should work outdoors every now and then, if they just in a shape that they can do it at least a couple of hours every week and together with somebody. It's also one of my things that maybe not related to Deadwood, but I'm worried of our world of thinking of individuals only. I also would like to ask for the shared learning, and I think that we are not willing to learn new things alone. It's too hard. But if we would have like groups supporting each other, like getting rid of driving car every day, for example, or using more bicycles, or that or working with the trees, or that kind of things, that I think I call for the different foundations and groups, and also young people, that they should gather up and think of that what are the things that we could do together.
Yeah, and I love this because it solves multiple problems at the same time. Next to the very specific topic that the group is engaging, there's also the problem, especially relevant to younger generations, of technology-induced social disillusionment, and this is very prominent, especially and many new kind of like even technological startups are emerging for bringing people together, but there's always a question of topic, and I think what we are doing here is also we're trying to learn and collectively, because alone it's not as productive, and definitely way less effective. And I was also thinking about the question from Aina, and I think there's also like an opportunity for these material science innovations, because as far as I know, like there are like these hempcrete, for example, in a thing which is kind of like a concrete, but it's made out of hemp, and it's a little bit permeable. So and I think there's once there's enough effort put into this, we might actually arrive at some surfaces. Maybe you will not be able to drive a truck, but at least high heels, maybe it's gonna be fine, but it might be still at least partially permeable.
Yeah, I just read about, don't know much about that, but they are now making some roofs of this mycelia. That it's so, which sounds really weird to me, but there are coming new materials and things like that, and I'm thinking of the high heels, that there might be also like in Finland, I think it's very practical, and it seems that people really do it, that outdoors you have very practical shoes, and then you change the shoes when you get in, for example. Or I went to Gothenburg in Sweden, and I thought it is very urban, nice city, and already first week I missed my rubber boots, but everybody were going with rubber boots and raincoats because it rains every day. But they changed the shoes, for example, at university, and they were all colors of glimmering, flowery rubber boots. But it was a rainy city. So it's also a cultural thing that.
Yes, exactly, Laura, and it relates a lot actually to this your solution to increase, like basically to choose a shared car. So this is an example of social technologies, and it's very much needed, because we can speak a lot, but what benefit does it have if people still live by the same just as business as usual kind of way? So yeah, it's very important.
Yeah. And for the architects, I would say that our task is to do the change as comfortable as possible, and like offer something new. I don't think that we can go backwards. Like there are some people that they are willing to go to live in like eco villages, very old-fashioned way, maybe some, but and become farmers or something like that. But not everybody can do it, and the technical solutions can help us a lot. And I think we need all the means to fight for the future. So that's the only way to do it. I think that we need all the skills and all kind of possible
beautiful
ways. Mm.
Yes, we're running to the end of the meeting. Do we still have any questions?
Thank you for your answers.
Yes, and I can send to Gizis the presentation, so you can go to the links if you want to. That's possible.
Please do.
Yeah.
So I see that Ruta had added a question because she's not sure whether her microphone works. So her question is, what kind of questions does a person has to ask himself to ensure well-being of a tree when planning an urban area or designing architecture project? So it's kind of like a question about questions that you have to ask about for yourself when you're working with this.
That was a tricky one. So
yeah.
how would I say? But from this multi-species perspective, so I would ask myself that I take the trees that they are living things, and they are older than I am, and they've been here before I am. So that do I have a right to, for example, cut down the tree for my building, for example, or some new things? So that kind of things, and in urban design, which is maybe the most of my field, so there are a lot of cycling ways that go around a tree, for example, that kind of things that it's possible to save the trees if you notice that before you start to plan and go to the site. You have to know that what tree it is, and how tall and how wide, and how all kind of things that, and I would also ask that which creatures are dependent on the tree, because forest, the book I mentioned, aspen has more than 100 species usually, and even more when it's decaying. All kind of insects and mushrooms and whatever, and birds and butterflies and so on.
Yeah,
and
this
the trees are also good for the pollinators. So part of our food is dependent on. So it's like a mutual. What I can give a tree, what tree can gives to me. Maybe that's the answer.
Yeah, it's about ecosystemic awareness. It's beautiful, and these hundreds of species, they don't even include the like manifold of bacteria, which is also very important type of creature habitating these environments.
Yeah. We have now evidence of the immune system that if you go really outdoors at least once a day, twice a day, so it's similar like that. You put your immune system to the gym. So if you stay indoors, you're lazy in immune sports, and you get healthier. We have tested that a lot with from hair and skin and saliva and from blood, and it shows that it's not only a hope, it's science.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much. This was very, very relevant and super beautiful. And yeah, thank you so much for spending your time and allocating all your enthusiasm and such a nice, creating such a nice atmosphere and very inspiring. So yes, we are definitely reading into your work. Definitely going to share the presentation with people, and we'll keep everybody reminded about the health, about Urbaria projects. So yes, hopefully we will have some more, maybe more entangled cohabitations. So yes.
Okay.
Yeah, beautiful.
Very nice.
Very
So
much.
Yeah, thanks a lot. A very nice weekend for everybody.
yes, you too.
Yes.
Mhm.
Very
Okay,
nice
Bye,
weekend.
bye, bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.